Hello, hello. Hey, hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you
Should I,
doing?
good. Should I close that window?
No, it's okay.
Hard for me to see you, but I guess it's not necessary that I see you, but hold on. Is that better?
Yeah, okay. It's fine. Okay, so let's start with the fact that soon we're gonna have a new live album from Lynch Mob, and in this album we're gonna hear Gabriel Colon on as a lead vocalist. So,
Yeah.
what changed that now we have Andrew Freeman on the microphone?
Um, Nothing dramatic changed. I mean, we worked with Gabriel for a long time, and we toured for a lot of years, and did a couple records, and I think really what we came away with that is that Gabriel is really a metal singer, and Lynch Mob is not a metal band, obviously. So it wasn't really his wheelhouse, you know. And he didn't do anything wrong. He sang brilliantly, and he got better and better. And but one thing we noticed when we had Andrew come in and sub for a show that Gabriel couldn't do, or something to that effect. But anyways, we had an opportunity to play with Andrew, a show or multiple shows with Andrew, and it was a different vibe, and it felt more like what Lynch Mob should be and what people were expecting, and we saw that in the audience response. And with Gabriel, I always felt we were sort of forcing a round hole into a square peg or whatever, or the other way around. It wasn't bad, it was great, but it was different and not what people were expecting. You had this metal guy with a really high range that didn't really have the body and didn't have the blues influence, and those are body of his voice, like let's say Oni had, uh, other singers, they have this sort of breadth to their voice and a heaviness which matched the music that we're known for. So with Gabriel, he was insane, but his strengths were in a different area that really were not that complementary to our music and what fans were expecting. He had this high range. He was very intense, but it was a different sounding voice. It was very nasal, and once we got an opportunity to compare the two singers back to back, it was very obvious and evident that Andy was a better fit. And so we just kind of moved on, uh, continuing to use Andy and with no hard feelings. And we love Gabriel, and we still do play with him occasionally. I just did something on the East Coast where he was the singer, and I performed with these other people, and he's coming in to sub for Andrew for some shows with us. We're doing some shows with Dokken, uh, and he's going to be our singer for those shows because Andy is booked with something else. So, having said all that, Andrew's just a better fit, but we're still very good friends, and we still continue to work with in a limited capacity with Gabriel. And Lynch Mob essentially is a revolving door anyway. So I make an old joke: you have to be in Lynch Mob before you can move up to the ranks. Everybody's been in Lynch Mob at one point or another, or will be.
And like you said, he has like this metal voice. And in the other interview, you said that he has this dark thing in his voice, and we can actually hear it on the new live album. For example, on the songs like "Let the Music Be Your Master" or even "Rain." So, were there any songs that positively surprised you in terms of his approach to the source material?
Yeah, all of them, because he puts his stamp on it and his unique style and sound. So every song is a reinterpretation of the classic track, you know. So I think that's a good thing. Although I did learn my lesson the hard way with the record that we did a few years ago that was basically covered our own music. We redid I believe it was the Wicked Sensation album. It was called Reimagine, I think. I should remember that. I don't remember the name of it, but anyways, I thought it was a brilliant record. It was so fun to make. It was so fun to listen to. It wasn't taking anything away from the original source material. It was just us doing it 35 years later. We put it out on, I believe, the 35th anniversary of Wicked Sensation. And we got panned for it critically, and fans were sort of not into it. And we're like, what? And I hope that's not the same reaction we get with the live record, because, you know, I love listening to it because to me it's fresh and refreshing, a new interpretation, a new take. What's wrong with that? Apparently, there's something wrong with that. We'll find out. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a very it's very hard hitting. It's very it's more metallish than the previous live records.
Yeah.
So I like it. And it's also surprised me that in some of the songs we can hear like this a little bit of blues, like a heavy rock, like in for example Cactus style.
Mm, mm. Well, yeah, you know, that's at the foundation of everything, right? So, um, uh, all rock music, even the most extreme metal music, is still you can trace it all back, you know, to its source material, which is blues, and even back before that, obviously. So, but that's something that you know, when I grow up, rock was all blues rock. There was no band rock. There were no bands out there that weren't. I don't think. I mean, that I could think about top of my head. You know, I mean, uh, all the great artists of the late '60s and early '70s were just building on 1-4-5 blues riffs and stealing from the old blues masters, Willie Dixon and Muddy Waters and everybody else down the line. Uh, you know, a third of Led Zeppelin's lyrics are stolen right out of old blues songs, and many, many, many other artists and songs are as well. But that's what I grew up on. So that's always a huge part of what I do. And so it's pretty much infused in the fabric of everything that I write and play. And I think it's very important that I play with a singer that has those qualities because, which Gabriel really doesn't. uh, but, you know, I really, in fact, the most important thing is the singer to have those qualities more than the guitar player, more than myself. Because I'm a fan of singers. I don't really listen to guitar playing and guitar players that much. Um, it doesn't interest me as much as listening to, and it doesn't affect me emotionally as much as listening to singers. And I listen to old blues, R&B, soul, neo soul, you know, stuff like that. Um, and to me, uh, when you play a musical instrument, you're just trying to emulate what singers do anyways, you know, in a way. So James Brown had that great line of, you know, he'd always ask each individual musician what instrument they play, and they would say their instrument, and he would say, "No, you're wrong. You're all drummers. Everybody's a drummer." And in some sense, that's true. But they're all singers too, are all, you know, advocating to be singers. Or, you know, that's the ultimate instrument.
And speaking of drummers, Jimmy Danda plays drums on the live album, but currently Brian Tichy is performing with Lynch Mob. So what happened there? Because I know that after the tour, Jimmy rejoined Bullet Boys.
Right, right. But that's what happened. I mean, that had always been what you know, in his back pocket. Um, I know he really wanted to make that happen because you know, in Lynch Mob, he was a hired gun. I mean, he's a deep friend, and we played together a long, long time. Maybe as long as Bullet Boys, as he's played with Bullet Boys. I don't know. But we did a lot of touring and a lot of records and been down a lot of paths together. And I felt that he's probably when we would talk, that he was getting to the point where it's either shit or get off the pot. You know, it's time to do this. If I'm going to ever do this Bullet Boys thing reunion, I better do it now, or it's never going to happen. And so he took a chance, and he knew he was taking a chance, you know, because that's a risky thing, you know, especially with a band with a volatile history. But so far he's pulling it off, I think. So I know we do some dates together here and there. Uh, Bullet Boys open up for us, so uh, I'll check. You know, I check in with him all the time. But Brian is amazing. I mean, and not taking anything away from any other drummer on the planet. Uh, Brian has to be the number one hard rock drummer on the planet. He's just unbelievable, and he's got an amazing, positive, youthful energy that he brings to the band. Where I mean, he's very ADD, but he's always on 10, and he works like a fiend. He's a machine, and you know, I mean, he plays with huge bands, you know, and we're not a huge band, and you know, we play a lot of clubs. We play some casinos and some smaller festivals and the Monsters Rock Cruise and things like that. But he plays with giant, you know, he plays in giant venues with much bigger artists, and he puts 110% into every one of our shows, and I'm very humbled by that. And he's a monster. He really is, and he's so inspiring to play with. Um, and one thing I do love about him, among other things, is that he loves to go off script, which I'm all about. So my favorite part of every show, and I try to do it every show. I don't do it every show, but most shows, is just forget the set list, forget Lynch Mob, forget everything, and just play off the top of our heads. I love doing that because when I was a kid and growing up playing guitar and young man, that's how we wrote all our songs, and that's all we did was improvise. And I never want to lose that, and I love it because to me the audience is experiencing the creative moment versus the recreative moment, which is a different thing. It's like when you come up with that first time you come up with that idea that turns into a song is the most exciting part. It's like, oh my God, this is so badass. This is so cool. And then you work on it, and you play it 10,000 times, and then you just kind of play the life out of it, you know? So I think that's a really wonderful thing to be able to do. And Brian loves it. He loves it. And he goes there and he listens, and we just go places. And I love that about him. So
And three Dokken songs made to the set list for the Final Ride Live album. Why did you choose Lightning Strikes Again? It's Not Love and Paris is Burning from the whole sea of hits.
um, well, I wanted to make sure first, although, you know, I had a major hand in writing most of the song Dokken material, if not all the song, you know, many of the songs I wrote from top to bottom, including lyrics, melodies. So I started with that, you know, uh, like Alone Again is really more of a Don and Jeff song. In My Dreams is more of a Don and Jeff song. So I want to stay away from those. But you know, you're right. That leaves a lot of material. Like, how do you pick? You want to pick something we kind of wanted to pick album tracks, deeper tracks, but something still recognizable. So the balance was, you know, It's Not Love is a big song. Um, uh, was it Don't Close Your Eyes that's on there?
There's It's Not Love, Lightning Strikes Again, and Paris is Burning.
Oh, Lightning Strikes, yeah. And Paris was not even a Dokken song. Paris was an Exciter song. It was actually even in my band before Exciter. It was called The Boys, and we wrote that's a very old song, probably like the mid '70s. that just got, uh, you know, dressed up a little bit for Dokken. I think we changed the words a little bit, maybe. I don't remember, but still the same song. Um, but yeah, Lightning Strikes, that, you know, first album, those are all. I think that was also derivative of something that we had from Exciter. Lightning Strikes was a riff that we kind of reworked for Dokken. It wasn't called Lightning Strikes in the Exciter days, and It's Not Love. I don't know. You got to put something out there that's a little bit more accessible, that's a little more of a hit. So I don't know. It wasn't really a huge thought process, and we didn't feed it into the mega computer to come up with an answer. We just sort of winged it, I think. And there was also part of the decision making, I think, too, was we recorded, I believe, 2 shows or more. I can't remember, but we recorded at least 2 shows, and we played long sets. We generally play, a good 14, 15 songs in the show. So I think part of the decision making had to do with how well the song was played, you know, because we didn't do any fixes, we didn't do any overdubs. It was just, which is pretty obvious. We were okay with leaving in the humanity and the mistakes, whatever you want to call them. So it's not a perfect sounding album. It's not a perfect performance, but I think there were other songs we intended to put on there. I remember, it's kind of coming back to me now, that we had some issues with. They were like, well, we can use this song and it's cool, but we have to fix it. The problem with fixing a live record is that it's not live, for one. And two, it's very difficult to do, if not impossible, because, and I've done this before in my distant past in the Dokken live record, is that you can start to fix something and it's a rabbit hole. Okay, you fix that, but then, oh, there's something else over here. Oh, there's something else. And now, oh, you fixed them, but it sounds different. The guitar sound is not the same. So we can't get this guitar to sound the same. So it's going to sound weird. And it's going to be obvious we fixed this. So now you have to fix the whole thing so it doesn't sound like it was fixed. You see what I'm saying? So it's just, you don't even want to start going down that path. And it's a very disingenuous thing to put on a live record that's not live. So I didn't want to do that either.
And as a member of Dokken, you and Jeff Pilson wrote a song for one of my favorite childhood movies. So while other kids thought the most terrifying thing they ever seen was King Mufasa death in Lion King, I was telling them that I love a movie when a guy with burnt face ripping out kids' veins and controlling him like a puppet. So how did it that you ended up writing a song for Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warrior?
Was that the premise of the movie?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Wow. I just thought he was like got burnt, his face burned in a fire, and
Like but there is a scene when he ripped off one of the kids' veins and he used them as a puppet and he threw him off the window. So it was like one of my favorite movie which I saw as a kid.
yikes. Ouch. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to see him coming up here in August because I'm doing a horror convention in New Jersey, and he's going to be, and we're going to go there to represent, well, people will be there to see him, and I'll be there as well. So that'll be pretty cool. We can talk about all the times we did cocaine off of his razor blade glove knives. Yeah. So why did we do that? Well, we had the reason Dokken became famous, if you could say one reason, it wasn't because we were good, it wasn't because we wrote great songs, it wasn't even because we persevered, never gave up. All those things contributed, but it wasn't because we practiced, hard all our lives and to get good and, worked our way up from the bottom and everything, all that stuff. The main number one reason is because we had a company called, what were they called? It was Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mensch were our managers. Forget the name of their company. Q Prime. And they're still a massive, massive management company. And managed Metallica and, all these giant groups. But Cliff made it his personal ambition to make us succeed, bring us to success. And he had the resources and the power to do it because he had the radio airplay guys in his pocket. He had the promoters in his pocket and all the labels, all the powers, all that. He had all those guys that could do the things that we needed done to get us to where we needed to go. We had to put in the work, 8 years, 10 years, whatever, tour constantly, all this and that. But we never would have done it without Cliff Bernstein. And he almost gave up on us multiple times. And he even would tell assistant guys, I don't see it working. And I don't know if I can continue on with this. We're going to give it one more shot. We're going to try this angle. And of course, we finally slowly broke through, And of course, then, Don broke up the band and tried to keep all the fame for himself and all the money. So that's the story, encapsulation of that 12-year history. But the point being that the management was why we were famous. And when Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mensch came to us and me for anything, I tended to concede on any point because of who they were and what they've done for us and what they potentially could do for us. So there was a lot of things like that I would, okay, because I love you guys and what you're doing for us, and I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm gonna play ball, even if I don't agree, if it's the best course. And so that was one of the things they brought to the table was they said, listen, the company that put out Dream Warriors, what they're called, big film company. And he goes, okay, they want you to write a song. And so we had the Don camp, Don and his people, but he didn't want to work with us. And Jeff and I worked together because we wrote together as a team, Jeff and I. And we wrote most of the material for the albums like that. And so we had these two sort of competitively friendly factions that were trying to compete to write the best Dream Warrior song. Don wrote a very good version, which I thought would have made the cut, but apparently it didn't. So, we kept tweaking and tweaking. We got it better and better in our home studio, and finally they picked Jeff and I's version, and then we we finished it all up, we recorded it properly and everything in a studio and on the album. And then so when it was all said and done, we delivered the song. We thought, oh, this is going to be great, especially if the movie does good, which was a big movie, I guess, for our franchise. So, and then we were informed that we were getting paid a buyout of a grand total of $7,500 for the whole band to split evenly after commissions are paid, and we would never see another nickel in our lives again, no matter how well the movie did. They did a total 100% global 360 buyout of the song for $7,500. So my cut of that was probably $1,500. Never saw a nickel since. So, whatever. I don't think that's fair, but it does. It's a cool thing because people love. It's a great song. People love the song, and it's also goes over very well live. And then we do things like I just mentioned in August. I occasionally do these horror conventions. They pay me very well and show up and sign autographs because of that song. So it paid off in other ways in the end.
But you
But that was
But you didn't meet Robert Englund and Patricia Arquette during the shoot for the video
Oh
because
yeah.
he edited that there isn't a lynch mob and the actors on the same frame.
The, oh no, we hung out. We definitely hung out. We hung out. We had the trailers and we were doing the scene where he woke up out of bed and who were those guys? That was in our video. Oh, no, it wasn't. It wasn't the movie set. It was the video set. He was on the video set. Um, for the Dream Warrior song. Yeah, that was it. So we had a trailer and we had these different sets, like this lava mountain, and the room with the walls I had to break through. I remember that. And then we would hang out. Yeah, we hung out in the trailer.
That's interesting because the whole video is like edited that there isn't like I said a single frame when you and the actors are together. There is a scene when you play and Freddy Krueger is in front of the band, but we can't actually see if it's Robert Englund or some other cast member.
Oh no, he grabbed me from around the neck and pulled me back through the wall.
Uh,
I remember
right,
it happening. So unless my memory is, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But I
but they
think
but they were on the set nevertheless.
yes, yeah. I
Yes.
have Patricia Arquette and Freddy Krueger guy Robert England were on the set. We were hanging out.
And after this last tour that was labeled as a farewell tour, you changed your mind. You didn't want to end Lynch Mob. So were you thinking about how to approach this topic? Because you said that you're gonna end your career, and now you're going further into the future, or you just said, well, fuck it, let's play and let's end this
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. I mean, well, I'm like a really big liar, so that's one of the problems is I lie a lot. And then, I'm kidding, but I do lie about things that are unimportant or not damaging just to entertain people. Sometimes I just make up a lot of shit, but just to be funny. But yeah, that was not that. So what that was just an impromptu decision. Like I woke up or I had the feeling over a short period of time that, I spoke with my wife and I'm like, okay, I'm 71. It's the anniversary. It's the last it's this, you know, it seems like it's time to maybe put it to bed. And I sort of decided that that felt right, you know. And that lasted, of course, about 24 hours after I really did it. And then I got some offers in, and they were very good offers. And what happened was when the promoters realized that that was it, um, there's no Randy Rhodes, there's no Eddie anymore, there's no this guy, that guy. Everybody's dropping like flies. George is like one of the last legacy guys who's still out there. He's still playing his ass off. He's like, whatever. Um, Functional, capable, and everything like that. So, and willing to play. So I'm like, the offers came in and were very good offers. So I think what it is I was like most of us built and raised to work. I have this work ethic that I was taught by my father, and working since I was like 8 years old. Just whatever, every single job on the planet you can imagine, physical work. Don't have an education, have a ninth grade education, so I'm like, I'm designed to work and I'm to support my family and chase the money, and I love it. I love the game. I love making money. I love playing guitar. Why would I want to stop doing all the things I love? And then to top it off, all of a sudden, when I announce the final ride, I get a flood of offers that are very big offers, like, you know, much better money than we'd be getting. And I'm like, oh, okay, so now I'm going to get everything I asked for and worked for, and I'm going to walk away from it? No. So I got right back in the saddle and been riding ever since.
So the concert situation has changed. And what about composing? Are you thinking about the new album?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we just finished up the second Cassandra's Crossing record. with Cassandra Carson. I wrote all the music. She wrote all the lyrics and melodies, and it just finished. The mix just dropped, so we just finished mixing it, doing all the little fixes and everything. So it's just putting the bow on the package, and you know, so I just got through that experience. Um, and I've been doing. I'm always doing like outside projects, recording wise, for other labels and artists and things like that. So that's a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy it. Like I just did a a tribute to Air Supply, and I don't really know what Air Supply is. I mean, I probably heard their song and stuff, and it's yacht rock. So I'm like, at first I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And then I thought about it. I listened to music. I go, well, it's really actually very intelligent, interesting music, and I don't understand it. I don't understand because it's not like logical changes like the way I perceive, writing, logical chunks and everything. And I couldn't figure out the puzzle, so I was like, oh, you know what, I want to do it. So I did it. It was the hardest tribute record I'd ever done. One of the hardest. It's very strange, but to find the logic in the song and figure it out. And very, big boy chords. It was all written on keyboards, so they had to transpose it to guitar and everything. It was really interesting. So I do a lot of that. And then, and so right now I'm kind of in the very beginning stages of slowly trying to write the next Lynch Mob record, which is really me just kind of coming up with ideas when I'm around or at home, or if we're out on tour, sound checks or whatever, farting around, cataloging ideas, and then those will turn into bases of song.
Yeah,
And
and we're gonna
then
also hear you on the ultimate tribute to Richie Blackmore's Rainbow with the track "Jealous Lover" with Andrew Freeman actually. So
that's right.
what influence did the Deep Purple guitarist have on you?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be growing up in the late 60s and all through the 70s with the greatest rock music that will ever exist, and the greatest guitar players, and that laid the groundwork and the foundation for everything that came after, for all of us after that. So I'm very, very fortunate, to be born, a lucky sperm, and I was born in 1954 and was playing guitar, 14 years old or whatever when the Beatles invaded the planet, universe. I mean, and I witnessed Beatlemania and everything that came after that, and Zeppelin, and Hendrix, and and every guitar player, Johnny Winter, Leslie West, Richie Blackmore, and dozens and dozens of others, that all influenced me to greater or lesser degrees. So Blackmore was one of the giants for me because Deep Purple was one of the biggest bands in the world, so I couldn't avoid it. And he was the first, arguably, neoclassic guy. So that neoclassicism affected me. It was beautiful, and I saw through what he was doing, the source material, the Bach fugues, and the things like that. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. And to this day, that's been a part of my tool belt, is having those things in my back pocket. Also, his tone had a big effect on me, and their music. I mean, their songs are just like, I grew up in the early Deep Purple era. I was into, actually, before Deep Purple, I was into Captain Beyond. I don't know if that was before. It was right at the early days. Captain Beyond was Rod Evans, who was the first singer in Deep Purple, with was it Billy Caldwell, Bobby Caldwell from Johnny Winter on drums. It was an amazing band. To this day still listen to them. But that style of music still runs through everything that I compose and play. I'm still just trying to be Hendrix, Page, Blackmore, Beck, and Clapton.
And just like you was looking out to these guitar legends, now young kids are looking up to you and your solos. So how do you feel about being a rock legend yourself?
Well, I appreciate it, but I don't understand, I can't understand the magnitude of what people feel. I understand it's important to them and that I've had an influence, but I don't see things from that perspective. And nobody that's in the limelight, lesser or greater limelight, does understand that. I mean, I don't think, I mean, we're just busy being human beings and living our lives, which I just have a very normal life and I just do what I feel compelled to do. And I have a passion for playing. Who knows why? Who knows where it comes from? And I just try to feel like I need to address the responsibility of the gift. You know what I mean? By treating it, by putting in the work, so I'm not wasting it and nurture it. And do a good job. I just need to do a good job. And when people recognize it, that's a bonus. That's awesome. Um, but I'm always at a loss for words when people come up to me. And I'm not a super famous person, but people recognize me here and there, or somebody will sing my accolades, and I'm uh, I don't really know what to say, because I want to be respectful, but at the same time, I can't feel what they're feeling. Uh, I understand it marked time for them and their experiences in their life, that music and all this and that, and but always what I think back is the time the tables were reversed. And I've met my heroes like Richie Blackmore, like Jeff Beck, and those were really powerful moments in my life, to meet those guys. And there weren't any words. That was the thing. And when I meet people that like my music, they it's not that they have any specific words, there's really nothing you can say, And so when I met Beck, it was just like uh, I was with my wife and we were backstage at there's a big festival in the Cotton Bowl in Texas, and all the guitar, it was like 50 something guitar players, and all the greats, Clapton and BB King, and everybody was playing. I was playing. I played earlier in the day. I wasn't a big name, but I was there, and my wife and I were in one of the production or one of the vans going to wherever backstage, and there was a production trailer, and I saw Jeff Beck walking up the ramp, and I was like, I will never get this opportunity again. I don't want to be that guy. I really don't want to be that guy, but I have to be this guy. But I'll be very respectful. And so we parked, and my wife and I walked over there, and I uh, I couldn't speak. I was everything I wanted to say to him my whole life I couldn't articulate, and it wouldn't have mattered, because what's he going to do? He's just trying to get from A to B and live his life, and so it was an incredible moment and a powerful moment for me. And I actually shed some tears. And my wife intervened and she says, "Listen, he loves you, and he was raised on your music, and you're sort of like the blueprint for who he became, and he loves you, and this and that." And he was a gentleman and very nice. But again, you could tell, what's he going to do? He's thinking, we're not going to be best friends. I'm not going to exchange numbers. What can I say? He did what he did. I do what I do, and there's a happy ending to the story for both of us up to that point. So just, I met him one other time after that, also very briefly, but yeah, yeah, it was powerful on my end. I was overwhelmed,
Yeah,
really overwhelmed.
sometimes all you need is just to shake hands and thanks for the whole influence.
Yeah,